Welcome everyone to TheCommandZone.com. Today we have an EDH match for you between Prime Speaker Zegana and Wort the Raidmother. While our players resolve their mulligans, we'll just take a look at the two decks real fast. On the left-hand side we have Brian piloting Zegana, and his Zegana deck is a creature combo deck, and it's mostly infinite combo with cards like Palinchron and Deadeye Navigator, where he's going to either draw his whole deck or have infinite mana or do something to that effect, and just go infinite in one turn and try and beat his opponent from there. On the other side of the table we have Ryan piloting Wort, and Ryan's Wort deck is mono green, and it's an elf ramp deck. So what he's going to do in this deck is try and play as many elves as he can in the early game, ramp out his mana, get his Wort out on the board as fast as he can, and cast some kind of large green spell, either like a Tooth or Nail or something like that, or maybe even a Glimpse of Nature, who knows. He can double that, he can copy it with Wort, and try and win from there, where he can either draw his whole deck or do something fun from that point. So anyway, we finished resolving our mulligans here. We're shuffling up, and we'll get started. Now, I believe that Brian has won the roll, and he will be starting off. If we look at his hand, he doesn't really have much to go with right now, but he does have a mana vault, so he's going to cast that mana vault and pass the turn. And Ryan starts out here as well, and we'll see his mono green elves start to take action now, with his first play of a Finhorn elf. So what we're going to see here, now these guys, just to preface this, these guys are very good friends, and they know each other's decks very well. So they know what they're trying to play around, and I think just from that knowledge, the way that you're going to see Ryan, who's piloting Wort, the way you're going to see him play is very, very aggressive. I don't think he's going to try and play around counters or anything. He's just going to play his spells as fast as possible, because he knows that Brian's Zegana deck is built for infinite combo, and at a moment's notice, Brian's deck can just go off and win the game. So I think we're going to see that kind of play style on Ryan's side of the board with Wort. Now, going back to Zegana, we can see that Brian's hand doesn't really have very much in it. I think he's fairly flooded right now. I know when he mulliganed, he put back a Kozilek and another large creature, put it back into his deck, but I don't think he found very much other than more land coming out. What I can see or have seen in his hand, I think he's got an Indrik Stomphowler, which will not come in handy right now, because the only target for that is a mana vault. So I think what he's just going to do is bide his time, and hopefully he can draw into something good from this point. So we'll see what he's got. Now, I think he's deciding what to do here. He's got his land, and we'll see if he's going to cast anything at this point. I know he does have a Plasm Capture as well in his hand, and I believe the hand he kept at the beginning of the game was 5 lands, Plasm Capture, and Indrik Stomphowler. So what he's going to do right now is just wait for a good moment to get that Zegana out with one creature, and hopefully he can do this before Ryan kills him. So you can see at the end of Brian's turn, Ryan is going for a Worldly Tutor there, and let's see what he pulls out. I don't know if he's going to go for a big creature or like a tutor effect, or maybe another ramp spell. So we'll see what he grabs with that. Brian waits patiently, and he pops out a Rafellos, which he is going to, I'm guessing, cast next turn. So that does say to me that he has something in his hand he's trying to get out. I don't know when he's going to play it, but he's obviously going to put a Rafellos on top of his deck and cast that next turn for some advantage. He does only have three forests this time, but playing an extra Soul Ring in the form of a Rafellos is pretty valuable. So he's deciding, I guess, if he wants to play Rafellos now, and I'm sure he will. There's no reason not to play it. Like I said, I don't think he can play around counters at this point, because he will lose the game immediately if Brian decides to go infinite, or if he's able to go infinite at some point. So let's see. So Rafellos resolved, and I don't think Brian counted that, only because it's a 2 mana spell, and it doesn't really do much other than ramp him, which he's already doing. So there's really no reason to counter that. Now, however, he is going to counter this spell, and I think he countered it only because it's a 4 mana spell. I wasn't sure. I'm not exactly sure what the spell is, but I know he countered it because it was 4 mana, and the 4 mana will allow him to do a lot more things during this next turn. So let's see what he can get off it. And that was a very, very good draw. He just got a Survival of the Fittest off the top. I don't know if you can see that, but that 4 mana and Survival of the Fittest is going to help him win this game. So at this point, Brian, I think, is ahead just because of Survival, which is going to allow him to tutor up all of the combo pieces in his deck. And I think he's got this game on lock now with Survival. Unless Ryan has a Crossing Grip or something like that in his hand, I don't think he's going to be able to get out of a survival lock unless he can win next turn. So we know that Brian just survived with his Injured Stomp Howler because it's effectively useless. It's just going to blow up a Mana Vault for Survival, and nobody wants that. So he's been that in search of another creature. I'm not sure what he's going to get. He looks like he's, looking through with haste. I don't know. He's got half the deck in his hand. He's counting his mana, so I assume he's going to go big with something here this turn. I don't know what he's going to get yet, but we'll see. Now, this was filmed after the M14 set was released, so it is a possibility that Brian decides to fetch out some kind of clone and copy their fellows, because he does have quite a few forests as well. I believe, well, maybe he's only got 2. That's probably not the greatest. Let's see what he gets. He does have quite a few options here. And if we think like Brian would right now, he knows, I think, that if he gives Ryan with Wort 1 or 2 more turns, he will go off and probably draw quite a bit of his deck. So I don't think he wants that to happen, and knowing Brian, he is going to be as forceful of his infinite combos as he possibly can in order to just end the game immediately. So let's see. I mean, he's looking at Avenger of Zendikar. We can see he's chosen not to get that one, and he's got, oh, there it is, Palinchron. Okay. So Brian has decided to end the game as soon as possible, and he's going with a Palinchron. And I think the reason he's doing that is so that he can play 2 large spells this turn. We know that the rest of his hand is not very good. It's mostly land. So what he's going to do, I believe, is try and cast his Palinchron, untap his mana, and then cast his General, so that he can get a lot of efficiency out of his mana and draw 5 cards this turn. So let's see how it plays out. He has 1 mana floating still. He's counting up his mana. Here it goes. We can see the Palinchron is going to be out on the board soon. Here it is. Yep, so he's got 2 lands and a Palinchron, so he really needs to draw something here in order to get in this game. But I think the Survival is just, it just gives him the reach he needs. Like, it's inevitability all over the place. And I think Ryan with Wort only has a few cards in his hand as well. Alright, so here comes the Palinchron. It's now in play. We're counting up our mana, and I believe after he untaps his mana here, he'll have 2 floating. He'll have 1 from the Plasm Capture, and then 1 from casting of Palinchron. Alright. Let's see what he decides to do. We know he's got 2 lands in hand, so he really has no choice but to cast Zegana. Okay. And I think Zegana is coming in. Now, Zegana says when Zegana comes into play, it gets +1/+1 counters equal to the highest power of creatures on your side of the board. So that would be 4. And then after you put counters on Zegana, you draw cards to her power, equal to her power. So he's going to draw 5 cards. And if we look at his hand, we're very lucky we're able to see his hand. We can see a Mole Drifter, a lot of land, and then another untapped creature, untapped land. Creature that untap lands from Urza's Saga. So he passed the turn back. Now this is Ryan's only turn. If Ryan can win this turn, well, he's going to have to win this turn. If Ryan does not win this turn, if he allows Brian to untap, it's game over for Ryan. We know that he's got a Palinchron out, and we know that he is going to try and go for that Deadeye Navigator, because that's kind of how his deck functions. So let's see what Ryan can do with his 1 turn. Alright, so he's going to start out, and he's going to play, I believe that is Collective Unconscious. I believe that's the name of the card. And it is draw cards equal to the number of creatures you control. So he is going to draw 7 cards here, which is a pretty good start. Trying to win the game here. Now, if Wort was out, he would have drawn 14, which is kind of silly. But let's see what he can do. I think I see a Guy's Cradle in his hand, so that's going to be a very good start. That's going to allow him to have access to another 7 mana here this turn. I'm not sure exactly what else is in his hand, what else he can cast, but he does have access to 10 mana total with the Fellows and Guy's Cradle. I'm sorry, he's got 11 with the Fenrir Elf as well. So he has access to 11 mana. Alright, we'll see what he decides to do. I believe he is tapping that for mana, the Fenrir Elf. So Fenrir Elf, yep, is being tapped for mana to play a Llanowar Elf, which is just going to add 1 more creature to the board, but keep the amount of mana he can produce the same by adding 1 for Guy's Cradle. So still now with 11 mana up, let's see what he can do with that. And I think he's trying to figure out what he wants to do. There's really a lot for him to try and do this turn. Okay, now he's gonna, let's see, he's deciding what to tap. Alright, he's going Fellows, so he's gonna float 3 green, and he's gonna cast the Priest. Alright, now that is, to me, a very bad sign for Ryan. If he's spending his time casting a Priest, he is saying that he is not going to win this turn. I don't think he'd be casting a Priest of Titania if he was going to go off this turn. So it's a very bad sign for Ryan. Let's see what else he can do. Playing, what is that? It's an Avenger of Zendikar. Okay, so that's not a bad play, but I don't think he can win with only a few green mana left. There's not too much he can do. Now, if he can somehow get rid of that survival, if he's got a Krosan Grip or something in his hand, I think he can win the game. And now, I think he made a mistake there, actually, because he does have. You can kind of see it in his hand. It's at 4 mana. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, draw a card from Scars of Mirrodin, and he does have that in his hand. And I think if he chose to cast that instead of the Avenger of Zendikar, he'd be safe this turn because Brian would not be able to use the Survival of the Fittest. Now, because Brian can use the Survival, I think it's game over for Ryan. I think what Ryan thought that maybe he couldn't go off his turn, but he does have a Palinchron out, and he can just survival up the Deadeye Navigator and get infinite mana, and from there just win the game. So I think that was a play mistake, a small one, but I think it's going to turn out to be an inevitable loss for Ryan here because he decided not to kill the survival. So we'll see how that goes. So that may be something that people should, that you guys as players should really look at in the future. If you are playing a game like this and your opponent is playing a combo deck and he has survival on the board, you should probably take care of that as fast as possible. So yeah, there it is. Alright, so he's got the Deadeye Navigator, and I think he's just going to show that to Ryan, and it's pretty much going to be game over at that point. Once Deadeye Navigator hits, he's going to Soul Bond it with Palinchron, creating infinite mana, and from there he'll be able to as well draw infinite cards with Zegana and end the game in any kind of fashion he wants. I know he plays a ton of Time Warp effects. He'll be able to take a couple turns, a Creative Hook Behemoth, anything like that. He'll be able just to come over the top of Ryan and probably take him out. So let's see what happens. Did he put Deadeye Navigator back in his hand? Or back in his deck? Let's see. I think he's kind of mulling over that decision right now. He might not want to do that. If he does play Deadeye Navigator this turn, he will not be able to use it with Palinchron. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so as I thought, he is going to put Deadeye Navigator away and go with something else. Now, Brian is very good at this game. He's going to try and get out of this situation and make it so that he can win on this turn. So let's see what he does. I'm not sure if he's going to get some kind of clone effect or if he's just going to try and get rid of some of Ryan's creatures. I don't really know. He is looking at that phantasmal image on top of his deck, we can see. So we'll wait for him to make a decision, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, there it is. Alright. Didn't take too long. Brian went and got the phantasmal image, and I assume he's going to copy the Palinchron. He may also copy the Avenger of Zendikar. depending on what he wants to do. Yep, well, he tapped 5 mana. That's a sign he is going to copy a Palinchron. So let's see him do that real quick. There it is. Alright, so he's copying the Palinchron right now. And from this point on, he'll be able to untap his lands and get that Deadeye Navigator back from his deck and do the whole thing over again. So here he goes. He binned a creature with Survival of the Fittest. Alright, so here comes, there it is, the Deadeye Navigator. He has the Deadeye Navigator out. He's going to pair that with the Palinchron. And from that point on, I mean, I think it's game over because he's going to have infinite mana. He'll be able to also flicker that Zegana with Deadeye Navigator as well. Yep. And that's going to be the game for Ryan. I think Ryan knows it's time to pack up and put his cards away and go on to game 2. So, yep. Brian is showing him all this infinite mana he can produce. Here comes a Woodfall Primus, adding salt into the wound. Woodfall Primus can now blow up all of Ryan's mana. Now, although it's not that powerful against an elf deck, but yeah, see, there's that artifact removal spell right there, and I think he also has Regal Force. So Ryan would have cast Regal Force next turn into a natural order to win the game there. So we're going to go on to game 2, and I hope to see you guys there. We'll see what Ryan can do in the next one. See you guys.